Welcome back to the channel. Today is November 15th. Today I'm going to be talking about how you can build wealth after we have our economic crisis. It's something I wish I would have learned a long time ago. So let's get straight into it. Before we get into the video, we'll go over the markets real quick. The Dow Jones is down 352, the NASDAQ down 410. This is not a downturn. I don't even think this is the start of the downturn. You're going to know, even if you're just a lay investor, you're going to know when we're in a downturn. It's going to be on national news. We're all going to know. So this is not the 10-year yield is up some. As I've always talked about, very concerning to me. But what we're going to talk about today is something, and I have to say that if you're under 50, this is a important video. If you're in your 20s or 30s, this video is huge. This is something I joined the Army when I was 19 years old. If this was something that I learned way back then, I probably would have probably 10 times the amount of money that I have now. And it's very simple, very easy, and it's how you take advantage of a crash and how you build wealth. And we're going to go through two charts. Is the QQQ, which is the tracker of the NASDAQ 100. If you want to be more tech related, you want to go with that. And we're also going to talk about the SPY. You can do this same thing with good companies. I'm always going to pick good companies. I think I can pick companies that can outperform, the indexes. But I will have the indexes integrated into what I'm doing because, as you're going to see here, I'm going to talk about the importance. And just a quick notice, this is the culmination, the book that I wrote with a friend. And it actually, if you read that, and you can buy that on Amazon, if you read that, it'll pretty much be breaking down everything that I'm doing. So I always talk, when I talk, that I believe that we're going to have a market crash coming, and I believe it's going to be severe. I believe it's going to be on the lines of 2000, probably 2008. I made a video yesterday. I said that within the next 3 to 6 months, General Motors and Ford will be coming to the table, probably with some type of cuts because the auto industry is in such bad shape. This morning, General Motors announced 1,000 jobs being cut, mostly salary. And that's only the beginning. They're probably doing that with the hopes that it doesn't get much worse and they don't have to actually cut any jobs from the producer of automobiles. I'm sad to be the one to have to say they're going to have to do that because the auto industry is a mess. And some of that has to do with the prices of cars went up so high. They're just too high for even me to want to buy one. And then plus the interest rates that you're getting on that loan because of the 10-year yield and the 5-year yield, things like that, causing it to be higher. So what we're going to talk about today, and please, I ask you, if you could just take a couple minutes out of your day to watch this video in full, because as I said, and I've done pretty well in life, but this is something that I wish I could have learned a long time ago. So we're going to go back to, this is the QQQ, and we're going to go over 2000 and the bubble. That's as far as this chart to go back on CNBC. I like it because it's pretty interactive. But 2000, it'll hum on the point that I'm trying to say. As you can see here in January 2000, when we was at the top of the bubble, the market closed at 208. It hit a high that month of 119, but it just didn't close. So in 2000, it was when the crash started. And as you can see, as we move along this line, this is when it kept going down, kept going down, kept going down, kept going down. So in July of 2002, you can see it closed at 2062 with a low of 2039. So just think about that. It went from a high of 119 intraday to a low of 239. I mean, that's like 75%. Over 75%. I call that a market downturn. And in many Buffett's, to really make this work for you, one of Buffett's biggest things is he always believed America is going to come back. That's why he's willing to invest. He believed that the Great Experiment was one of the greatest experiences in the world to ever happen, and that was the formation of America. And he believed in the system, and he believes it's going to come back. So If we got lucky anywhere along this line, just not too high. And normally we're gonna know when we're in a crash. You're gonna know. And you're gonna kind of know when it gets so pessimistic, when people are so worried out there, you know you're getting to the point of a low. So even if you don't hit this low, don't worry about it. I sold all my stocks about a month ago. It went up. I'm not worried about it. I felt I got out where I felt as though that the market was extremely overvalued. So I'm not worried about it. So, and if you're young and if you're in your 20s or you're in your 30s, at this point, you push all your marbles to the table. You say, I'm all in. But then you don't stop there. You don't stop there. If you try to live within your means, whatever extra money that you have, and as I say, you can buy individual stocks or you can go with this QQQ and SPY. And the reason why, the QQQ bring a lot more technology. The SPY, I have 500 stocks. The QQQ is only 100. So you'll be a little bit more concentrated, but you will have higher and low extremes. So if you started investing in 2002, and let's say every month, let's say you was able to save $400 or $500, $200, whatever you're able to save, you bought you a QQQ. I joined the Army in 93. I was still in the Army at this time. I didn't get out till 2012. So I was saving money back then. I wasn't buying a QQQ. What a big mistake I made. That's why I say I hope you can watch this video whole. I hope you can learn from it. And if you got somebody that you know out there, please share it, because this is important information. I know I don't have all the bells and whistles. I'm just an older man on here talking, but the information is more important than any other thing. And what I'm talking about, it can make you wealthy. So through all these years, while you're working, you could be purchasing. You know, 2 years later, it's still only in January 2005, it's only at a high of 40 and a low of 35. So you're getting a decent return from the 20. 2 years later, you're up like, almost 50%. So it's not a bad return. So you're doing well. You're doing way better than a savings account. You're doing better than T-bills, which I love T-bills right now, and 2006. But the real thing to notice is look how long it's taken us to get back to the 2002 high. The 2000 high. So throughout all this time, and one of the rules that we talk about in the culmination, to make the rules simple, is once you think it's at its low, you basically dollar cost average every month until you reach that high again. And so we hope that you accumulate a bunch of shares, which is an asset that you can leverage, you can do things with it. But we hope that you accumulate a whole lot of shares in that time frame. And let's just say, and you keep purchasing, you keep purchasing. Remember, we reached the low of 2002. We're still climbing, we're still climbing. It took all the way to, we're still not there. July of 2016, it reached back up to 119. So it took over 16 years to get back to a high. So you would have been purchasing shares. The QQQ pays a dividend, but as you can see here on the right, it's so high, the dividend is only like 0.5%. But as you was accumulating them shares back then, from your original purchase price, you're probably getting 3 or 4% from your original investment. So you keep climbing. And at this point, you can evaluate if you're a little bit more into the stock market. Well, are we at a high? Well, we're not at a high, but is it a bubble type high? I would tell you, I don't believe that it was a bubble type high at this time. So you can do one, you can keep purchasing, or you can say, I'm going to sit on my shares. I'm not going to sell. I'm going to hold my shares, and I accumulated so many over these past 16 years that I'm never going to sell them. It might be a time that you need a home loan, and when you got a huge asset like this, and you use that to back it up, you can do that. There's a lot you can do, especially with something as solid as a QQQ that's an index fund. So as you can tell, it keeps climbing. It keeps climbing. And now you're doing. Remember, you bought it at 20. 18 years later, 16 years later, it closed at 185. You're doing well. I can't, I'm not going to be able to do the math right now, but you're up. If it was at 200, you're up like 1,000%. You're doing really well. And that's why I say, if you're young and you put this into place, you will be wealthy as long as you're saving and you're investing in here. So then we hit, and then 2018, and then remember 2008, 2009, that's when we had a crash. So we had a crash at the 2009, so you're adding to it, but it didn't hurt the Nasdaq as much as it hurt the S&P and the Dow. So here we hit a downturn here. If you like that little downturn, we went from 185 down to a low of 143. You might want to start adding to your position again. And as we start climbing, you may want to stop. We're at 214. You're bubbling. Remember, you bought it at 20. You bought it at 20. And now, we get a little dip. And this is when I talk about when I purchased my Meta. Now we're all the way up to 408. And you've been purchasing all them years, man, let's say below 40. I mean, you can easily have 1,000 shares if you're saving. If you had the possibility to save, even at 40, if you had the possibility to save $500 a month, I mean, we're talking, that's what, $6,000 a year, and you're purchasing those. So you purchased over 100. So over that long period of time, you probably accumulated 2,000 shares. So we're at 800,000. I mean, you young, you're working. I mean, if you're lucky to be making a lot more money, you might be able to save $1,000 a month. I mean, so just imagine. And this is something that I wish I would have learned. I learned a lot about investing. I've read a whole lot of books. And this right here is a wonderful performance. And you don't even have to read anything. All you know is that you're buying a tracking stock. So then we get a really nice deal. You might have stopped. I would be really worried that we're getting in bubble territory here. This was 2001. I was a little worried. So then we get this nice little downturn in 2002. And this wasn't even that much of a downturn. It wasn't a scary downturn. I think this time we're going to have a scary downturn. 2000 was a scary downturn. 2009 was a really scary downturn. I mean, the market was down over 50%. And we thought banks was going to go out of business. It was really scary. So now we had a high of 408. We dropped all the way to 254. That's a nice downturn, 150 points. That ain't 50%, but it's about 30%. It's pretty high. And then look at this. And if you still in your purchase, when you had a high up here, if it was me and it was my portfolio, I would be buying T-bills. I don't know. That's when after the Fed start raising interest rates, you probably could have been buying T-bills, probably a little over 5%. I would have been buying T-bills. I would have thought I would have outperformed, but I wouldn't have probably sold my shares because I bought them so low. I'm probably going to hold them for a lifetime. I don't care how bad the crash is going to be. I don't think it's going to 40. And you could have started buying here again. Then look at this takeoff again. And we're in bubble territory. This is the most extreme overvalued market that I've ever seen. Worse than 2000 as an overall market. This is the most extreme market I've ever seen. But now remember, you bought these shares at 40. At $40 a share. You bought a low of 20. And you just kept purchasing and purchasing. You went all in. Let's say you went all in at 25. Oh, this is extreme. This is as soon as the way that we're on the extreme upside, then we was on the extreme downside. Microsoft, Apple, they were selling at a 10 PE. No one really wanted them. Now they're selling at 40. Doesn't make sense to me. Why would you buy something at a 35 PE and you wasn't willing to buy it at 10? But this is where we at now. And I would strongly recommend that we sell. Now we might keep taking off. I don't know. But I know we're extremely overvalued, and I know we're in bubble territory. So we're going to, sorry about that. We're going to kind of do the same thing on the SPY, which, like I said, this tracks the S&P 500, and sometimes it's a little bit more extreme. In 2000, it didn't get hurt as bad because it was mainly technology companies in 2000. But in 2008, 2009, it was more banks, really companies that was really scared that the whole economy was going to crash. But let's go back. I joined the Army. This really makes me sick. I joined the Army in 1992. I mean, and if I would have just right when I joined, and I started having an allotment, saving up early on, right at the beginning of my career, if I would have been buying in the 40s, But I didn't know. I didn't know. But I'm giving you this information so that you're armed with it. So at the top of the 2000 bubble in January, we hit a high of 155 and it closed at 150. And we're going to go through this one a really bit kind of faster because I think you get the idea. And let's just see real quick what the S&P dividend. So right now they're paying, even though we're in bubble delicious territory, they paying 1.20 or 120. Just imagine if you got $1 million in this because you accumulated them over the years. So I mean, you can leverage them. You'll be getting your dividend yield. You'll be doing well. You'll be getting over $10,000 just in dividends alone from your original investment that you started. So in the low of it was July of 2002 for the Nasdaq. Also, it went from a low of set to 77. So from 150 to 77, almost a 50% downturn. So it wasn't as extreme as the NASDAQ. It was down like 80%, 75, 80%. This one was down 50%. If the market is down 50%, I'm going all in because I believe America's going to come back. And if you believe America's going to come back, this will work out for you. So you did the same thing. You started accumulating shares over all this time. And it didn't take that long for it to come back to an all-time high again, as it did with the NASDAQ. I think it was 2012 it came back. This came back in 2007. But what we didn't know is we was having one of the most financial crises to ever come our way since the Great Depression. So we went from a high of 2015, of 156 to a low of 67. And then again, in this, you put in if you stop your buying operation because you reached a high, you restart your buying operation. And if 2008, 2009, you was worried about the financial crisis, you were interested in what the markets was doing, or you're just a lay investor, don't pay attention. You watch this guy on this video that said how you can accumulate shares after a market crash and you start purchasing. You may just want to hold your shares. You don't care. I mean, you can go, I don't care. I know we're going to go back up. So if we go down, I'm going to start accumulating more shares. So then in 2009, we started going, and during this whole time, you still can be accumulating. We're below 150. You can somewhat tell. Oh, so here in 2013, we reached a high of 169, but then we just kept taking off. We're taking off, and within some of this point, I would have already stopped purchasing my operation. I'd have probably been buying T-bills. I don't know, but once I think the market is too high, I may not sell. I may just stop putting new money into the market. So then this is October of 2021. I think the NASDAQ was January of, I think it was January 2021. And look at this. So we reached a high of 479 and we reached a low of 357. You could easily start your buying operation again. In the culmination, we talk about if the market is down 10%. But if we're in extreme measures like we are in a day, I wouldn't start my purchase operation at 10% because I believe we got so far to go because we're just so high at a bubble. But then even here from 357, and now we're at 585, 593, I would be selling everything. I'd be like, this is enough for me. I'm going into T-bills. We made the video yesterday. Goldman Sachs said every year over the next 10 years, we're probably going to have 3% returns. But what I would be doing right here at this top bubble that we're at right now today, even though the market is down, I would not be in the market. I would be all T-bills. And what I would be doing is I would be loading up for the next downturn, which I believe is coming really good. This economy is doing horrible. And my thought today was, which is kind of good. People on the lower income, they're already devastated. They're devastated already. It can't get much worse for them. That's why things like the dollar stores is doing terrible. I mean, because they're out of money. They're out of money. So I mean, inflation done killed them. So they're hurting. So people with some money still able to purchase things. But my warning to y'all is coming to you now. It's going to go up the economic scale. So these people at the low, they probably can't get hurt no more. Matter of fact, they might even start doing a little bit better if we have rising wages and things like that. But now this is going to come and affect the people that are doing a little bit better. And then if the crash, when the crash comes, not if, when it comes, because it's going to come. I have no doubt in my mind. I have no doubt in my mind it's going to come. I don't know if it's 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, but it's coming because our financial condition is terrible. It's terrible. So I'll be preparing for the next crash and hope I'm prepared to start one of these recycles all over again. As I said, this is probably the most important video I could ever make to help educate a young person on growing wealthy in the stock market. I mean, and I have a couple Dairy Queens, I have other things that I do, but if I could do it all over again, this is all I would do. I wouldn't have to have I wouldn't have to have a lot of human interaction or human interactions that I want to have or doing things that I may not want to do. But when you sitting on 5,000 shares of SPY, you're good. You're good. You're getting that dividend. You're good. So I hope this information was helpful. And if you really like this video, please like, because it helps with the algorithms. I hope you watch the whole video. That also helps. Please share with some of your friends that you say, hey man, this dude might be on to something here. He might be on to something. So please share it. Please subscribe for our other content that we got coming out. Good luck investing. We out.